Hey, this is future Kaylee speaking. Thanks for clicking on the video. My name is Kaylee, and this is Read, Rant, Review. This is technically the second video in a series that I'm doing reviewing the Lucy Score books, the Lucy Score Knockemout trilogy. Things we never get over, things we left in the light or hide from the light, and then this last one is things we left behind. So if you have not read the first two books in the trilogy, or if you haven't watched my video, I highly recommend doing that before watching this one. Otherwise, it's not going to make very much sense to you. I filmed all of this in like one night, so that's why I have to do this little separate intro, because otherwise it's not going to make any sense to anybody clicking on this video. Spoiler alert, this whole rant review is just me cursing and losing my mind about this stupid book. I gave it a 2-star. Overall, I don't mind Lucy Score. I don't mind her writing. It's just 600 pages of small town romance for no freaking reason. It has no business being that long, and she completely destroyed two characters that I loved. I read 1,200 pages waiting for this book with like a stupid hope in my mind that it would do good and it would be great, and it was not, and I'm very disappointed by it. So, in the final book, Things We've Left Behind, this was arguably the most anticipated book of this trilogy. From all of the Goodreads comments that I was able to find, like on the original book, in all the hype and everything that I was able to find, literally everybody was so pumped because Lucien, our little criminal guy, is hot, and then Salone is just like, I think what everybody wanted to be, this little cutesy small town librarian taking care of her community. Yeah, bro, I want to be Salone. I love Salone this entire series, and so I was so excited for this. It had a 4.42 on Goodreads with 313,000 reviews. Highest in the series, which is, again, common for series. Like, people aren't going to read all three of these if they aren't a fan. Awkward. But still, was this my favorite of the series? Yeah, probably, for a couple different reasons. Mostly just because this most aligns with like a dark romance plot that I love, which I'm a sucker for dark romance stuff. I'm not going to be romantically attracted to a super horrible guy like Knox, and I'm not going to be attracted to a cop. Sorry. So we'll get into it. The book opens with Salone's father just died. He died of cancer. She's coping with her father's death. She's really, really tight-knit with her family. It was her mom and dad, and then her sister, and then the niece, Chloe, that we've met before. Chloe's now best friends with Waylay. Chloe's like the most popular girl in school, whatever. So it's all the girls now that are left. And they lived in this mansion in Knockemout. Has like 12 bedrooms. It's this really like old style Victorian home that Salone bought from her parents whenever they had to move to the city to get her dad's chemo treatments and like go be closer to the doctors and stuff. So she lives in her childhood home, and she's like slowly made it more eclectic and cool and decorative and stuff, but she still lives there, and she's still staying in her childhood bedroom, but she lives there by herself now. So all of them came back to visit. They're staying in her house, and they're visiting and whatnot as they go through this funeral for her father. This is important context because her next door neighbor was and is Lucien. They grew up together. He bought his parents' house as well. So now, even as adults, they are neighbors. But Lucien does not stay in his house very often. He just bought it for almost like a spite thing that we'll discuss later. But he mostly lives in DC. He lives like right outside of the White House. But he just comes home, and then he'll stay and knock him out every now and then. And he'll stay back in that house next door to Salone. They're having a traditional funeral where Salone and her mom and her sister are up at the front by the casket and going through this whole thing. They've been standing up there for 2 hours, and at one point, Lucien comes in, and he's giving hugs to the mom, and Salone's a little not happy with how close of a relationship that they seem to have, and she gets overwhelmed with seeing him. She's instantly attracted to him. God, he was beautiful. Supernaturally molded by the gods. Beautiful. He would make gorgeous little demon babies. Nope, absolutely not. My biological downward spiral was not going to make me look at Lucien Rollins as a potential mate. I don't care who walks in. You're at your father's funeral? And you think it's time to be turned on by a guy? It made me so mad. And so she gets overwhelmed with Lucien being there, and so she steps outside. he comes outside after her. Like, her mom tells him to go and take care of her. So Lucian goes out there. She's sitting on the curb. He gives her his jacket. He asks if she's eaten. Like, he's really taking on this caretaker role, and it's very, very cute. She says she hasn't eaten. He makes a call to the diner, orders her favorite breakfast burrito, and has it delivered. The diner doesn't deliver. This is just like Lucian magic, you know what I'm saying? And also, he has no business knowing what her favorite burrito is. He's just a little stalker cutie guy, you know? And then she's just sitting there kind of zoning out, and there won't be any new stories, I murmured. What? He snapped. I shook my head. Nothing. You said there wouldn't be any new stories. I'll never have a new memory of my dad. I just went to a hockey game with my dad last night. And I'm still about to text him and say I love him. Bro, this is crazy. That's so sad. So anyway, Lucian. They have this moment together, smoking and eating this burrito on the curb after her father's funeral. Cut to the next chapter, we learn about the house situation that I described earlier. But also, after the shooting and all of the insanity in the last book, Lucian began working with the FBI to nail Anthony Hugo. Duncan Hugo, the son, is in jail. Tina's in jail. Dilton is shot dead. It seems like everything's kind of cleaned up. And so at this point, it's just time to nail Anthony Hugo, the dad. Time to fry the big fish, baby. So he gets a call from the lead FBI agent, Agent Idler, that I briefly mentioned before. And she tells him that a guy named Felix was killed. Felix is the guy that Duncan Hugo said made the list. The hit list that Nash was on, okay? Oh, no, he's not even dead yet. Sorry, he's missing. He'll die. Spoiler alert. Felix is missing at this point, and so they're like, oh, like someone's cleaning up loose ends, like somebody's going through and trying to like clean up stuff. He's at the house reflecting how much he hates it, and it's just general brooding, which I love a guy who broods, I'm not gonna lie. But he's talking about how much he loves spring in that house, and he decides that he's gonna sell the place after this upcoming spring. Salone comes over to return his coat, and they talk about how much her dad would have loved for them to get along, which is really sad. Lucian was like a son to her family growing up, and her dad took him under his wing. And like Lucian spent a lot of time at their house growing up, and even as adults, Lucian remained very close with her parents. Alone, she comes over to bring him his coat back, but also brings him a burger because she's like, we're gonna be even for this. You got me a burrito earlier, here's your burger. I don't know you shit. They just chat, there's some tension. She's like, we're even, and then she says, I want to be alone. And so she goes home to go be alone and mourn at her house by herself. And Lucian takes it upon himself to decide that she shouldn't be mourning alone. That's not appropriate. And so he calls Naomi and Lena and Steph to go over and keep her company. So they do, but they say, oh, well, like, Lucian, like, you were close to her family as well. Like, you shouldn't be by yourself either. And so they bring Nash and Knox to keep him company. But while everybody's on their way to their houses, Lucian calls Ezra, who is like his old therapist that became his best friend. He doesn't really serve a purpose for this book other than character growth. You know, hey, at least we're using a therapist random friend guy rather than a child with autism. So I can't complain, but he's just a weird filler character that shows up sometimes to humanize Lucian. Also, when Salone goes back to her house, she's kind of moping around, and there's a knock at the door, and she goes to get it, and it is a guy named Alan. Alan was her father's protege, like a current kid that her father took on and was helping him out with a bunch of stuff. And he says that he made a mistake when he was younger, and her dad helped him through his time of need, and now he'll be graduating as a lawyer in May. I don't think I said it, but her dad was an attorney. Jeremiah, Steph, the girls, they come over. It's friendly banter. It's cute. It's slice of life. What's relevant is that Salone reveals that she wants a husband and kids really badly. Why does she reveal that? Because she doesn't want to talk about her dad and the feeling of loss. And so she talks about this like overwhelming urge that she's had to have a family and kids. And she realized after losing her father that she's 36, 38, almost 40, and her eggs are drying up, quote unquote. And so she wants a family. She realizes she's been so caught up with everything that's going on in life that she's overlooked what she really wants. respect, but I just would love to read about a main character who doesn't have a kid at the end of the book, who the epilogue isn't them getting married and having a bunch of babies, who maybe their like end goal in life is not Sally Homemaker, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, again, no disrespect to your choices in life and like what you want to do, but I would like the idea that a woman can feel whole in life without the need for a husband and for a family, at the very least. So they discuss how she's going to get a dating app. She's going to get a dating app. They're going to make a profile. She's going to go on a bunch of dates. She's going to find Mr. Right. Salome then talks about how she wants to set up free and legal aid initiative at the library in her dad's honor. Naomi and Lena are for it. They're like, yeah, we'll put some money toward it. Steph says, yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of money once I sell my house out in New York anyway, so I'll be able to invest in it. And they're like, what the hell do you mean selling your property in New York? Turns out, not relevant to anything in the story other than just side character development, I guess. But he's been battling this whole thing with Jeremiah that he wants to move in with him and like live full time in Knockemout and be close to his friends and to his family, or not even family, be close to his friends and like be serious with Jeremiah, but he won't admit his feelings for him. Why do we care? I don't know. It's just a thing, okay? The next chapter, they decide that they're gonna get the boys like Lucian, Nash, and Knox to come outside, and they're gonna throw a bunch of snowballs at them. It's a cute laughing time. Our first flashback in this book to 23 years ago. Salome and Lucian are neighbors, and the year before, his father lost his job and has since become very aggressive, more and more so. And Salome's bedroom faces Lucian's bedroom, like their house, but specifically his bedroom window. And then one night she hears fighting, and then she hears the dad's tires like squealing because he's like leaving the house. And when she looks outside, Lucian had just come out of the backyard and he kicks a rock at their fence. And so she's like, hey! He looks up, she hides behind a pillow, she like kind of dives down. And the next thing she knows, she hears him climbing through her window. She's on the second floor. He climbed the cherry tree in their backyard and snuck in through her window. And she's always had a crush on him. He's the cute older football player guy. How do you not have a crush on the cute older football player neighbor, dude? And she's just the little nerdy girl. And so he comes up, he's like, hey, I wanted to come up and apologize for the rock, and really I just wanted to see the inside of your house. And he helps her with math homework, and it's very cute. And then her parents yell up for dinner and tell her to bring down her friend who came through her window. And it is cute. It's very cute. Her parents are so cute. She brings him down for dinner. He joins them, and it's the beginning of a reoccurring thing where he doesn't really have much going on at his house other than abuse, and his mother being abused and then like folding in on herself and locking herself away to like cope with the bad feelings. And so he goes over to their house all the time to help out and eat food, and her dad takes him under his wing and teaches him a whole bunch of stuff, and it's very a safe place for him, right? This is the start of that. In the next chapter, Salome goes to the diner to meet with her mom. Her mom is about to, right, post-funeral. It's like the next day after the funeral. And the mom is going to go back home to their apartment in D.C. to go and do stuff that her dad needed. And to her surprise, Lucian is there. Mom and Lucian are at a booth. She comes up. Mom makes her sit by Lucian. And the mom says, hey, you guys need to get along. Your father was so upset that you guys didn't get along. Like, you need to work on it. I have to go home, Salome. I know you want me to stay here, but I have things that your father wanted me to do. Lucian asks what needed to get done so he can help with it. Salome doesn't like the sound of that because it really sounds like he's done more for her family than she knows about. And why are they so cozy? And why is her mom and him so close? She's getting real weird vibes from it. And one of the things that her dad asked the mom to do was to bring his current attorney case files, to Lucian to like delegate and deal with. So Salome's like, oh, well, I bought the house. I have his office. I still have a bunch of his paperwork. I'll go through it and I'll bring it over to Lucian's office. It's like, okay, cool. The mom leaves. She forces them to stay at the diner together so that they can talk. It's awkward. It's kind of cute. There's some tension until Wiley Ogden comes in. Wiley Ogden, ex-police chief, creepy guy from Honky Tonk, that also shot Tate Dilton, comes inside. And he looks super guilty when he sees Lucian. They like make eye contact, and then he gets kind of weird about it, and then Lucian tenses, and Salone tries to talk about it more, and he tells her to leave it alone. Weird. In the next chapter, we cut to Lucian at his office. And also, by the way, I don't know if I have said this yet, in this book, when they have their like spicy scene, she's like, oh, I said his 2-syllable name with such hate. It's supposed to be pronounced Lucian? Lucian? No offense. Hey, no offense. Lucian is a fucking horrible way to pronounce that name. I'm not calling this man Lotion. Sorry. Anyway, so he goes into his company. He owns a consulting firm. His whole little hacker underground bad guy thing is a whole ass consulting firm that is right outside of the White House. He has like over 100 employees, emphasizes that every employee that he hires starts at $80,000 a year because he doesn't want turnover, and he doesn't want to have to deal with people that like retraining people all the time. And he also knows that he's a douchebag, and so he just wants them to like be paid enough to deal with it. We're introduced to a whole slew of characters again. He has a secretary who's a hard-ass retired military officer. There's a young single mother who he hires. He recently hired her after she was at a shelter. Like, she left an abusive relationship, went to a women's shelter. He found out about it, hired her on the spot for $80K so she could take care of her kids. Okay? We'll touch back on that later. It's just more reoccurring characters in the story that don't serve much other than humanizing the guy. But they come up enough that I need to give some context. Hey! We had like an abandoned 12-year-old kid that I feel like got used to humanize a dude, and some other stuff in the first book. We had a child with autism that was also black, and so we touched on that in the last book. And now in this book, we have an abused woman that we're going to utilize as a plot point to humanize a man. I don't think I like that. I don't think I like that at all, actually. He's going through his evil corporate empire. That's the name of the chapter. We also meet Nolan. He's back. Nolan's back. He's working through it with his wife, and now he's working for Lucian, and he's his like right-hand man, basically. And Lena has began working there as well. She's a little hesitant to fully commit, though, because he's a douchebag to Salone. Part of the deal of her hiring, she's like, hey, be nice to my friend. And also, Naomi, Salone, and I will be in D.C. tomorrow picking out my wedding dress. And Lucian says, oh, you should bring them by. You know, like, you should show your friends where you work at now. Wink, wink. He just wants to see Salone, even though he won't say it because he's a coward. This chapter also, again, kind of touches on just, like, random shit. So part of his consulting firm is that he works for politicians to get them in place, and then will, like, blackmail them, and then help some of them out by blackmailing their opponents, and kind of being this behind-the-scenes, like, undercover thing to make political moves happen. It's kind of weird. He blackmails a dude to hire a school teacher in his place, and it's, again, just kind of stupid side shit that doesn't really matter. They go to the wedding dress thing the next day. It's cute, slice of life, friendly banter, everybody loves each other. The only thing that really matters in this chapter is that it opens up with Salone going through her father's office and getting that paperwork together. But when she does, she drops some of the papers, and at the very top of it is paperwork about Alan's mom. Alan's mom got arrested as a first-time drug offense. She went to prison for 20 years for a first-time offense for like a relatively minor drug trafficking charge, and really kind of caught her attention. And so she calls her sister, who followed in their father's footsteps and became an attorney. Salone calls her sister to look into this case. And to look into like what happened and why it happened, and just get some more information in general. And that's about it. Lena also picks out a wedding dress, and then they go over to Lucian's company. She runs into Nolan. Lucian comes into the lobby, sees them all talking, and then gets all pissy and weird about it. He wasn't supposed to be there, though. He told Lena specifically that he wouldn't be in the office, but he happened to show up. The girls then go upstairs, and Lena's giving them a tour, and they're amazed. Like, everybody's happy. Everybody's cool. It's not at all what Salone expected. And then they run into the single mom with 2 kids that he just hired, and she's so grateful and talking about how amazing Lucien is and how much she owes him. And Salone is getting very overwhelmed with this idea that her world is turning upside down. Lucien actually might be a good guy. Like, he might actually be a human being and not this monster that she's built up in her head. So she goes to the bathroom to get cleaned up and kind of get herself together. When she steps out of the bathroom, she runs directly into Lucien's chest, and she drops her bag with the files in it and a couple other things. And so he picks up her bag and is talking mad shit to her about looking like she needs to look where she's going. He gets upset that she was just going to give those files to Lena instead of him directly. And so he just takes her bag and walks directly to his office. She just follows him along and doesn't really realize what she's doing until she closes the door behind her in his office. There's banter, there's tension until she takes the files out and hands them to him. And then she somehow ends up sitting on his desk, and then he like comes up to her and is like between her legs, and they're flirting, and she grabs his tie and pulls him in, and there's this like tension when like right when they're about to kiss, the secretary comes in and interrupts and says that he has other stuff to do. The next chapter, Lucien is visiting his therapist friend, talking about life and how much Salone pisses him off. And he gets the idea in that moment, though, of like they need to figure out a way to get rid of this tension between them. And he just doesn't know how to do that. But he's like, if we can get rid of this tension, then maybe I'll finally be able to move on. Like, I need to get her out of my system. Like, I can't keep thinking about her all the time. Following chapter is another flashback to 23 years ago. And Salone's dad is teaching Lucien how to play chess. To play chess, with a bunch of sage life advice kind of trickled in. Mom comes home, Lucien is reflecting on how happy and healthy their relationship is and how much he's being abused at home, like talking about his mom locking herself away and his dad's episodes and all this other stuff. And we learn that Salone is on a date with a guy that Lucien told her to break up with because dude was talking crap about her in the locker room. Lucien had beat the shit out of him for talking crap, but he still wanted her to break up with him. So this is actually really sad. So in this flashback, Lucien is also, again, talking about the episodes with his dad. There were nights that I prayed to a deity I didn't fully believe in, begging the divine to have him arrested for drunk driving or something worse. It was the only way that we were going to survive. Though part of me worried that it was already too late, I was filled with the kind of anger that festered deep down, that never found a release, that changed who you were as a person. As hard as I tried, I couldn't seem to unfist my hands. He wants to leave for college and do all this stuff, but he knows that he can't leave because if he does, then his mom is going to get the brunt of the abuse and she's going to end up dead and he's going to feel bad about it. God, what a horrible situation. So right after his father abuses him, that's when he has those thoughts and he's outside. His father had stormed away, driven away, whatever. Mom's locked up in her room. He's outside kind of circling his arms and trying to get the feeling back after being harmed so physically. And Salone says, "Psst." I stopped circling my arm and peered around the side of my house, beyond the dingy beige siding, past the patches of weeds to the fence that divided good from bad in my life. And there she was in the window beyond the cherry tree. The good. "What are you doing up? It's late," I scolded in a whisper. "I couldn't sleep," Salone called back. I wouldn't be able to now either. He wasn't coming back, not tonight. He'd go to a buddy's house and drink until he passed out. I, on the other hand, would lie there awake, staring at the ceiling, wishing that he'd never come back, that he'd drive that truck off of a bridge and put us all out of our misery. I looked back at my house. The lights in Mom's bedroom were on. She'd be curled up in that tight ball like she always did after. She used to curl up around me. When times weren't quite as bad, when he wasn't quite as vicious, but somewhere along the way she started curling in on herself and I became the protector. I should stay. I shouldn't taint Salone's life with the ugliness of my own. "I got a new CD. Do you want to listen?" "Fuck it," I murmured to myself, and I entered her yard. The gnarled bark of the cherry tree abraded my hands as I climbed to her. "Hi," Salone said, pretty and perky in a pair of pajama pants and a David Bowie tank top while I climbed through her window. "Hi," I said, carefully stepping over the books littering her window seat. She had a pillow crease on her cheek under her glasses. Her hair was piled atop her head in a knot so messy that it was clear she had been sleeping at some point. She was cute, adorable even. I was drawn to her in a way that I wasn't used to. "What are you doing up?" I asked uneasily. Her gaze darted to the window and then back again. She raised her chin. I don't know. She was a good liar, but I could tell. Did you hear something? I pressed. You're bleeding, she said, ignoring my question and jumping into action. My fingers found the corner of my mouth and came away red. Shit. She grabbed a box of tissues and yanked several free. Here, sit. No, it's fine. I should go, I said, starting for the window. I should have known better than to bring this here. Just because I was feeling sorry for myself didn't mean that I had the right to bleed all over her room. Hey, you can't go. You still haven't apologized for the rock thing last spring. Next time, I said briskly. It was our refrain, our promise that I'd be back. A promise I needed to give serious thought to breaking. Bro, I might just be sensitive, but that might be like one of the cutest things ever. The idea of like, hey, you still need to apologize. And never doing so you had a reason to come back. That's so cute. I will say that like this doesn't come up again, which is so sad. What a waste. Like, what a fucking waste of an opportunity that this book could have ended with him finally apologizing for the whole rock thing. That makes me want to cry at the idea that this could have been executed so beautifully. This could have been the best callback ever. That, like, when they worked out happily, he could finally apologize. I got one foot up on the window seat when she grabbed me by the back of my sweatpants. Seriously, Sloane? Let me look at your mouth. I mean, the blood on your mouth, she insisted. She clung to me like one of those fucking burrs that you get stuck to your socks after a walk in the woods. Fine, I murmured as I sat on the cushion between a Josh Grisham and Octavia Butler. Stay, Sloane ordered. You're bossy for a pixie, I complained. She snorted as she collected the clump of tissues and a glass of water from her nightstand. Her bottle green eyes were solemn as she approached me, and I knew then that she knew. She knew, and she felt sorry for me. My hands closed into fists again. So, are you ready for your chem test tomorrow? She asked. She knew my secret, knew I didn't want to talk about it, so she was just going to clean me up and pretend everything was normal. I didn't deserve her. Sorry for never, I gestured helplessly. Acknowledging me at school, Sloane guessed, filling in the blank for me. She had an uncanny knack for knowing what I wanted to say even when I didn't have the words to say it. Yeah. She shrugged those dainty shoulders and flashed me a smirk. It's fine. It would ruin my street cred if the captain of the football team started paying attention to me. Your street cred? I scoffed. She dunked the tissues into the water and began to gently dab at the corner of my mouth. It felt nice to have someone care. People would start expecting me to try out for cheerleading squad and go to bonfires at third base, and it would cut into my reading time. Plus, I'd have to give up my secret crush on Philip. Stage crew Philip is your secret crush? Stage crew Phil's claim to fame was his perfect grades in calculus and the headset that he got to wear backstage during school productions because he was in charge of the curtain. I can't help it. I'm a sucker for a guy with power. Every time I think of him hissing curtain up, I get weak in the knees. I was smiling in spite of everything. That was the effect that she had on me. She was good. Everything about her seemed to sparkle. Good people got good things. And then I remembered Jonah, the guy she went on a date with. Your dad said you were on a date tonight. I sounded accusatory, but I couldn't help it. Relax. I went out with Jonah so I could dump him in person. You broke up? Mm-hmm. He was kind of an ass. You were right. Say that part again. No. Come on. No, and shut up. But seriously, I understand. You understand what? You can't be friendly to a four-eyed sophomore nerd. It would tear a hole through the space-time continuum of high school society. She didn't know the real reason why I didn't want anyone to know about us. If my father had an inkling that something mattered to me, he would destroy it or ruin it in whatever way that he could. The only thing he allowed me to have was football because it meant something to him to have a son who excelled on the field. But if he ever had a hint that Sloane meant something to me, that I valued her, he would inflict damage. And if he did, if he managed to hurt her in some way, I didn't think I could live with that, or let him live. Nerd. Does it hurt? She asked me, changing the subject again. Her voice was husky and serious now. It's fine. Lucian, don't. You don't even know what I was going to say. Yes, I do, and it's none of your business. But not everyone has the family that you do, okay? But why can't we go to the cops? The idea of picking up the phone and calling the cops on my father was laughable. Police Chief Wiley Ogden was one of my dad's best friends. I was 10 years old when Wiley had pulled my father over for speeding and swerving between the lines. He was drunk. He'd handed me his open beer can when he pulled over onto the shoulder. The nerves in my belly had just started to unclench. The police would help. We'd watch videos about them in school. Don't drink and drive, but my dad did. I thought the police would stop him from making this mistake, from scaring me, from hurting someone. Someone started early today, Wiley had cackled when he walked up to my father's window. The chief had let him off without even a warning. They'd shot the shit about fishing and made plans to meet up at the bar later that evening, and then Wiley waved my father back onto the road as if bestowing some kind of special privilege on him. I just can't. Yes, we can. She kept saying we as if she was in this too, when that was the last thing that I wanted. If she got too close, if she got hurt, I wouldn't be able to hold back. I wouldn't be able to stick to defense, and I would end him. And in doing so, I would become him. If he's hurting you, Lucian, stop. She wrapped her arms around my waist and held tight, her face pressed against my chest. I hated how good the physical affection felt from her. It wasn't this way, blah, 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 whatever. Feelings. And then he says, what CD did you get? I asked. She pulled back from me from our embrace, and I was both relieved and regretful. Her glasses were askew. Her hair was even more of a wreck. I felt something warm and tender slide through my chest, like I was absorbing her goodness, but it wasn't mine to take. Shania Twain. You're kidding me, right? What's the matter? Aren't you man enough to listen to girl country? Shania Twain is a beautiful badass. Do you want to listen? She looked so sweet and hopeful, her hair lopsided, eyes wide. I wanted nothing more than to lie next to her in that soft bed, in this nice room, in this big house, and be part of it all. And that was exactly why I couldn't. I brought darkness with me, and my bruises were contagious. What a banger of a sentence. I should get back and... Please? It's not a good idea, Pix. What if your parents come in? I shouldn't be in here. They're asleep on the other side of the house, and honestly, if you leave right now, I'm just going to spend the whole night worrying about you. I won't be able to sleep, and I'll be tired tomorrow, and I'll fail my trig test. Come on, big guy. Do you really want that on your conscience? You're ridiculous. 3 songs. 1 song. 2. It was selfish and absolutely stupid, I thought, as I toed off my shoes. If Salone's dad were to come in here and find me in his daughter's bed, he'd never forgive me, even if I tried to explain. He knew how special she was, and he could sense how damaged I was. That was why they were so nice, because they felt sorry for me. It's come on over, not advanced calculus, she teased. What are you doing? I asked, as she tucked a pillow under my arm. I'm building a nest. This is how I sleep, she explained, fluffing 2 pillows behind me. You sleep with 42 pillows? It's 6, smarty pants, and don't judge me until you've tried it. I had 1 pillow and a mattress on the floor after Dad had splintered my bed frame from throwing me on it last summer. I relaxed against the mound of pillows, and I tried not to think about how good it felt being surrounded by softness. Sloane cuddled up against my side. It was just the 2 of us, supported by a soft U of pillows. Is he like this all the time? Only when he drinks. He just drinks more often now. He still acts normal some of the time. And it was that act, that pretense, that I hated more. I preferred the monster to the man pretending to care by showing up to football games or taking us out to dinner. I hate him. I really hate him. I slid my arm around her shoulders and cautiously drew her closer. It felt so good that I knew that it was wrong. I don't want you thinking about him. Why can't we tell the cops? It's complicated. Just trust me. Promise me you'll take care of yourself, Lucian. If he gets out of control, you won't let him, kill me, kill my mother. I would kill him first, even if it sealed my fate as a monster. Like father, like son, I thought. I promise. If you promise me that you won't call the cops ever, no matter what. She took a deep breath and blew it out. Pixie, you have to trust me. Cops would just make it worse. Her silence lasted too long, and I squeezed her shoulder. Ugh, fine, but I'm not happy about it. Promise me. I promise. You're not going to college, are you? You can't leave her alone with him? No, I can't. That sucks. You have to sacrifice your entire future because your dad is a monster and your mom won't leave. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Pigs. What if I looked out for her? No. The word came out so loud that it seemed to echo around the room. We both froze and listened for telltale signs of walking parents. I grasped her by both of her shoulders and I made her look me in the eye. You're not ever going to get involved. Do you hear me? You don't ever go over there. You don't ever speak to them. You don't even draw any attention to yourself. You don't ever stand between him and someone else when he's been drinking, okay? Okay, jeez, calm down. It was just a suggestion. I'm sorry for scaring you. You didn't scare me. You annoyed me with your intensity. 3 songs. She brightened and crawled over to reach for the earbuds on her nightstand. This time, when I fisted my hands in the bedspread, it had nothing to do with fear or anger. I was having feelings, normal teenage guy feelings, but I wasn't allowed to have those for Sloane. Mr. Walton, her father, trusted me, and I needed that trust. Sometimes the Waltons felt like the only anchor that I had. They talk about some girlfriend-boyfriend stuff, how they're not dating anybody, how they're happy that the other one's not dating anybody, and they like what their friendship is, and they don't want to have to give up on it. They listen to songs. The song was over too quickly, changing to a country anthem, something about black eyes and blue tears, and she's not going back, and it must have been exhaustion that painted the story in my head, walking away, moving on, growing up. For a second, I wanted it so badly that I didn't realize how tight I was clinging to Sloane until my fingers started to ache. Wincing, I relaxed my grip on her. She tilted her head to look at me. It's okay. You can hang on to me. I won't break. I pushed her face back down and resumed my hold on her, keeping it gentle this time. The track changed again. The third song was the ballad, I Won't Leave You Lonely, and despite my best efforts, the words got in my head and tattooed themselves on my soul. I'd never be able to hear the song and not think about Sloane and how safe she made me feel. I wanted to hear it again, but I wasn't about to ask her to replay it. Maybe I'd buy the album myself and hide it in my car. When the final chords of the song played in my ear, Sloane slid a slim arm over my stomach and clung to me. I'd fulfilled my promise of 3 songs, but there was nothing for me at home, and there was everything for me here. She didn't say anything when the next song began. Neither did I. That's the whole... I feel like that scene with them as teenagers is literally like what we all waited for. The entire book was like, what happened? And the answer is that scene, and then another one that we're going to get in like 20 more chapters. They were just little high school sweeties, and he was just so hurt at home, and she was a little safe place for him. And her family basically adopted him, and they loved each other so much as kids. Right people, wrong time thing. After the flashback, cut back to current day. Sloane's back at the library living her best life after the visit to Lucien's office. Back in her office, she's checking the dating app. She has 0 likes whatsoever. She's like, oh my god, this must be broken. She's trying to figure out why nobody liked her back, scowling at her phone when Lucien appears in her office doorway, returning a book that she had dropped in his office the day before. And they start talking about her father, and they're having these cute memories and reminiscing about things, and he's looking at all the trinkets in her office and asking her questions, and it's very, very cute. Until he comes across a bronzed softball in an acrylic case. And he's like, what is this? She's like, oh, my sister, she got it bronzed as a joke for my last softball game. And as she's telling him the story, she's like rubbing her wrist. And he looks over at her and he gets pissed off about it. He's like, does it still hurt? She's like, no. I don't even know why I was rubbing it. So this stupid, immature arguing ensues, and then he leaves. And then her sister shows up. They go upstairs. They talk about Alan's mom's case. Her name is Mary Louise. They talk about that. Sister has a little bit more information, mostly just that it was an unusually harsh sentence, but the judge had made a living out of coming down really, really hard on drug charges. And then really some of the stuff I told you earlier, she pled guilty and then it went to no contest. She never appealed. And then Sloane picks up that her sister is sad about something else. Like there's something a little bit off. And it's revealed that her sister had some secret boyfriend that nobody knew about. It's kind of relevant. Not really, though, but sort of. It'll come up later. In the next chapter, Naomi... Oh my god, not Naomi. Oh my Jesus Christ. There's so many characters. Sloane and Lucien go to Knox's and Naomi's for a family dinner night where it's the whole gang back together. All fucking 20 of them. Lucian and Sloane don't know that the other one's going to be there, so they show up at the same time. They get pissed off. Knox meets them outside and is like, hey, fuckers, get your shit together, because Naomi doesn't want to invite you guys to the same thing because she knows that you guys don't like each other, and I swear to God, if you make us have 2 of every event, I'm gonna kill both of you. It's kind of funny. And so he's like, to get past it, he's like, you guys are going to go in there, you're going to pretend to be nice, you're going to put on these TENS units, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like this silicone thing, and then they have like an electrical current that goes into them, shocks your muscles. I had it in physical therapy for like my knee. It like helps your muscles relax, I guess. I don't know, is it supposed to relax you? I don't know. It's this really freaky electric machine thing though. So they put it on their stomachs so that when it turns on, it'll simulate period pain and like horrible cramping. And so Knox is like, put these on, come inside, shut the fuck up, get along. Waylay is in charge of the TENS unit though, and so she's like shocking them randomly throughout dinner to the point that they realize what's happening. Shenanigans ensues. It gets discovered. Everyone scatters while Naomi tears a new one into Knox. Sloane and Lucian scatter to the back porch together to be like, hey, let's call a truce. I don't want to cause trouble for our friends. Like, we just need to agree to disagree and just like move on. So they're gonna pretend to be okay with each other. Sloane then goes inside. She talks to Lena and Naomi about Mary Louise. She's like, hey, for our first client for the library initiative legal fee thing, can we put it toward Mary Louise in honor of my father? Like, can we help him finish his last case that he was looking into? They're like, hell yeah, girl. Like, let's do it. Let's go visit Mary Louise in prison and go and get her opinion of it. The guys over here, Nash and Knox, lose their mind and they're like, no, the fuck, you're not going to prison. Are you kidding me? Why would you even say that? They berate the girls. There's a whole bunch of arguing. Sloane is like, hey, okay, fuck off, guys. We won't do it. We'll do some more research and we'll come back to it later. They change the topic. Lena asks Sloane how the online dating is going. Sloane says nobody likes her. She shows them her profile. They look at her profile. They say, girl, are you even trying to get a guy? It's like a whole bunch of cat stuff and some like unflattering quote unquote photos. So even the guys come over, they look at the photos and they're like, yeah, dude, you look like a psycho. Like, nobody would be attracted to you. Why would they swipe on you? So they retake photos. They redo her whole profile. They make a new username. They completely revamp it. And then instantly it's like likes galore and guys flirting with her galore. I hate that so much, but that's a whole other discussion. So Lucian oversees all this, by the way, and he's like super pissed off and growling about it. The next day, Sloane is in the prison to visit Mary Louise. Lucian, knowing Sloane, knows that Sloane was going to be at the prison, and so he like meets her there and surprises her in the parking lot and is like, hey, if you're going to go in there, I'm going in with you. Otherwise, you're going home. So they both go inside, they meet her, they get her thoughts on things, whatever. There's a bunch of discussion. Mary Louise tells them the whole story, which is it was actually Alan's drugs. Alan and one of his buddies, they were moving some drugs, trying to make some money. Mary Louise left her husband or something, and so then Alan knew that they were tight on money, so he was trying to make money and be a good kid. But he was moving drugs, left it in her mom's car. She got pulled over. She got busted for the drugs. It was this whole thing, whatever. When they leave, Lucian says, you know, like, your dad would be proud of you. Like, good job. And it's kind of cute. But he also says, I don't want you to get your hopes up, though. Like, this is going to take an entire legal team. This is going to be incredibly expensive to change this and to get her out of here. And they're talking about everything that she needs and everything that she needs to talk about Lena and Naomi about, you know, before they do anything. When Lucian invites her to coffee, you know, olive branch, trying to be cool, and then she freaks out realizing that she's going to be late for her first date. So Lucian gets very protective. He's like, where are you going? And who are you going to be with? And have you told anybody? And like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, dude, chill. I mean, kind of hot, but like, chill. She goes on her first date with a guy. His name is Massimo, and he's been lying. He's a massive catfish. His mom had like commandeered his Tinder. I'm gonna say Tinder. She's probably a Bumble girly, but he commandeered the social media or the dating app account, whatever, and was technically the one that was talking to her and set up the date. He's like a total man-child. He only eats buttered noodles, and he doesn't have a job, and he forgets Sloane's first name and refers to her as Rackety Ann at one point. Expects her to pay. He's a super pothead. pothead. It's like super bad vibes all the way around, like absolute mess. And so Lucian texts her and asks if Massimo is husband material. She explains what's going on, and Lucian says, wait there. What? And I said, more stupid, unrealistic banter later, they have dinner together. And it's like, it's one of the, like, Lucian comes in. Oh, actually, hold on. I'm actually just gonna read it to you because this shit is like so fucking dumb, bro. Oh my God. So, Lucian, he says, wait there. She's like, what the fuck? Every woman in the place, including the lesbian couple and the 92nd birthday attendees in the corner, stopped what they were doing and stared at Lucian as he entered the restaurant. I too fell under his spell as he swept toward me. His eyes were all silver fire. His mouth was pressed in that mean, firm line that made any woman vie for a smile. His coat today was charcoal gray that billowed behind him like a superhero cape. His trousers were a lighter gray and fit extremely well in the crotch. I hadn't noticed that in prison. Okay, so Lucian takes Massimo outside. The couple behind her says, girl, I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm a nurse, and if you don't go home with that tall, dark, what did he say? Tall, dark, and tight crotch, I'm gonna check you for head trauma. The man next to her nodded. I'm her husband, and even I think Suit Guy is fucking hot. Hey. So you know everything that I just read you about that scene from 23 years ago where they were in the bedroom and it was like such meaningful, realistic conversation of a abused child seeking safety and comfort in a childhood friend. It was poetic and great. This is the next chapter. Well, like 2 chapters later, but still, how are you... This is why this book got fucking 2 stars. How are you going to do that to me? How are you gonna... So, Lucian, like, kicks him out, whatever, sends him home. Comes back inside. They finish the date. They're talking about stuff. They're talking about being fifth wheels for their friends and their friends going on dates and falling in love and kind of feeling out of place about it. And he asks her why this whole rushed husband finding thing, like, where is this coming from? And she mentions wanting a family and wanting what her parents had. In the middle of their date, he gets a phone call about Felix. He's dead. I told you earlier, sorry. They find his body. Very clearly he was murdered. So Lucian tells Solon that he's working with the FBI to bust Anthony Hugo, and she's not happy with it at all. She's very clearly expressing that and about being concerned about Lucian's safety. In the next chapter, Lucian visits Duncan Hugo in prison. Again, the son of Anthony Hugo. Duncan Hugo being the guy who they thought shot Nash, but didn't shoot Nash, but did actually kidnap Naomi and Waylay and technically orchestrated the whole thing and dated Tina, so he's in prison, whatever. He goes to visit him, tries to find some more information. I said they're trying to get more information out of him since Felix is a dead end. But Duncan doesn't really have much to give because his dad didn't trust him. His dad did not give him any type of information, thought he was a crappy dude. Lucian tells him that he's like, hey, buddy, if you don't help the FBI, if you don't give the FBI something, they're going to transfer you to a federal facility. And Duncan starts to lose his mind. He's like, I can't go there. My dad has people there. And I would be in danger. That was enough to get Duncan talking. So he does reveal that Felix was close to a woman named Maureen Fitzgerald, who Nolan refers to as DC's highest caliber madam. If you don't know what that means she set up dates for politicians. She found really, really attractive, probably really young women to go on quote-unquote dates and more with benefits with politicians and other men of power. Nolan, right, again, being part of the whole FBI thing, being Lucian's right-hand man, is like in this interview with him. They go back out to the car, they talk about it, and Lucian tells him that they're friends. Like, he and Maureen are friends, that they share intel. She gives him blackmail material on the politicians that use her services, and he gives her protection of sorts. I said lots of stuff happens in the next few minutes. We find out that Lucian has dinner that night with Solon's mom, and that someone followed the single mom employee thing from earlier that I mentioned, followed her. Assumably, it was Anthony Hugo's henchman trying to prove a point. Luckily, she got a partial plate. they were able to track down the car. And so then Lucian and Nolan go over to where the car is parked and blow it up. They make a bomb. Just casual Tuesday night activity after finding something out. Just go fucking blow some shit up. That's cool. And so then he goes to the mom's house, Salone's mom's house, like nothing happened. You know, smelling like freaking gunpowder and gasoline or whatever. And they just have a cute hangout time. He went over there I think this is a Thursday. He went over there every Thursday to hang out with her and her husband and talk about life and hang out and stuff. And it is very cute. And they play a game and he's like, I'm not going to let you in just because you're a widow. And it is so cute. And then that night, he texts Salone some lawyer information for Mary Louise to kind of get that ball rolling. They go back and forth a bit until she calls him. They talk about her mom. They talk about coping with loss, about the car explosion, and how she likes to blow off steam. Because she's like, so what do you do when you do that and then, like, you're still angry? And he's like, I'm not angry. I don't know what you mean. And she's like, you know what I do when I'm still angry? You know what I do to blow off steam? I have sweaty, dirty sex. Hello? Out of left field, my guy. So there's more sexually charged banter. As one would expect when you say some shit like that. Until he snaps out of it. He essentially, don't think of me. I don't think about you at all. And then she hangs up. He's like just a dick about it. The next day, Lucian is back at the house in Knockemout, and Salone goes over talking shit to him for not bringing his trash bins up from the road. She's like, I don't know how you do it in DC, but like, I'm sure you got somebody to do this back home, but you need to take this in. She goes inside. They banter some more. He got her favorite pretzel. Doesn't tell her that he got it for her, but obviously he very clearly did. She's on the counter eating it, and then he like cages her in again. It's a recreation of the Office scene. You know, he's like, you don't need to settle for a husband. You need to get everything that you want. You're gonna regret it. Like, you deserve the stuff from the books that you read, and you deserve what your parents had, and you don't need to just settle for a guy that wants kids right now. And all in all, truly besties, it was pretty hot. It was hot, yes. It was sweet, yes. It was true, yes. In a different context from a not shitty man, that a man-child person who's like regressing. Yo, I see why people like this book, you know what I'm saying? So they're having this conversation about her not settling in families, and then it somehow devolves into him making a comment about not wanting a family, and then saying that he got a vasectomy when he was younger after having a pregnancy scare. Interesting. That turns into them arguing about holding on to something that doesn't exist, him trying to kick her out, Salone telling him to leave Hugo alone and that it's dangerous and he'll retaliate, and she's like, why are you even doing this? Like, why do you even care about Anthony Hugo? Fucking let it go. Are you just trying to keep getting retaliation on everyone that's ever done you wrong? And she's like, your dad ruined you. Your dad ruined you. Your dad ruined us. He influences all of your choices. Even when you do something in spite of your father, you're still doing it because of him. You're still letting him control your life. You can't forgive him. You can't forgive me for what happened when we were 16. Well, I can't forgive you for letting him win. Damn. In this argument, though, right, and talking about letting him win and talking about his dad controlling his decisions, Lucian reveals that his father died last summer. Salone gets pissed because she's like, I should have been notified. Why should you have been notified? She's a victim of his father. She testified at all of his hearings that monster should stay in prison. She should have been notified that he died. She had no idea. That devolves into this comment from her saying that their dads should both still be alive. Sounds like, why should they both be, why would they still be alive? She's like, my dad was a good man who should still live to do good things, and your dad should have suffered longer. She asks how he died. His dad died in his sleep from a stroke, and it was painless. And she's pissed about this, that her good father had to suffer for however long from cancer, and then his dad just got off so easy. I was like, damn, bro. In the next chapter, we have a flashback. It took us over 1,200 pages to find out why these two hate each other. I said, are you ready? It's a little anticlimactic. So based off of what I read you earlier, I'm sure that you can surmise that Lucien's dad comes home to dole out the worst harm yet against Lucien and his mother, this time with a knife. And Lucien, seeing the knife being pulled on his mother, goes a little extreme and starts attacking his father even more aggressively. Solon, hearing this from her window, decides that she doesn't have a choice and she has to call 911. She realizes that this is more extreme than usual, and she's between a rock and a hard place. She doesn't want to wake up her parents because she'd have to catch them up on what's happening, and also she doesn't want her father to get hurt, and they wouldn't respond fast enough. And so she regrets it immediately as it's happening, but she doesn't feel like she has a choice, and she calls 911. The cops come, and of course it's the good old boys club. It's Wiley Ogden, and Wiley takes Lucien's father's side. Of course, his mother takes his father's side, as oftentimes abused women do in situations like these. Victims do, I guess I should say. They end up arresting Lucien. His dad spins it that Lucien attacked them with a knife, that he's the innocent guy, and nobody will corroborate otherwise. And his mom says nothing. The cops, the EMTs, everyone understands that this is wrong and that this is bullshit, but nobody can really say anything due to Wiley being the police chief. So it just ends up being this like really, really bad situation until her dad comes out, sees what's happening, rushes to Lucien's side, calls bullshit on the whole thing, and Wiley tells him to shut up. Dad is like at the window of the cop car and giving, Lucien like legal advice through the window. As he's doing this, she comes up, still holding the phone that she called 911 on, and trying to apologize and trying to talk to them. She's just bawling. And he realizes that she betrayed him, and now he has to go to jail because of her. He turns 18 in a couple of days. He graduates in a couple of days, and it's all ruined. He also realizes in that moment that if his dad sees that she means anything to him, he will hurt her. So Lucien decides to yell at her and tell her to go away, and doesn't talk to her again after that. In the next chapter, back to current day, Lucien meets with Marine, the DC madam, in a hotel office. They have a conversation about Felix. It turns out that Felix and Marine are cousins of sorts, so she's kind of looking out for him. And come to find out, he had brought Tate Dilton to a couple of like family get-togethers in recent weeks. And so what that would mean is that Felix would have gotten the hit list from the crooked cop Dilton, who is now dead, which means that Lucien has been chasing a ghost. Because if the list originated with Dilton and now Dilton is dead, then the list is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, oh no, that's like not good news. And so Lucien comes downstairs from the hotel. He goes to the lobby area. Nolan is down there. Seeing that Lucien is stressed, Nolan meets him and he says, hey, let's go to the bar, like the hotel bar, or like around the corner, down the hall. Let's go drink and hang out. And of course, Lucien owns the hotel, because why wouldn't he? They go off into like a little shady corner to talk about business, and they're drinking and they're talking, and the whole time they're kind of figuring out the whole Dilton case and in this list and all this other stuff. And there's these guys across the bar that are just laughing and being super loud and obnoxious, and they can't really figure out what's going on. Eventually, a woman comes up to flirt with Lucien, but she doesn't have green eyes and glasses, so he's not interested. And then it hits him like a train. He decides that he needs to have sex with Solon so that he won't be interested in her, because whenever he has with a woman, he loses interest. And wouldn't you know it, the guys that were across the bar laughing obnoxiously are flirting with Solon of all people. She went out to the bar just to like get laid and get it out of the way because it's been a long time. And Lucien approaches her and he scares off all of the men, referring to her as his wife. Scares all of them off, giving them little evil eyes and threatening them and whatnot. And he sits by her and he puts his hand between her legs and all up in her business, asking her what she's doing there. She says that she's trying to get laid. And he's like, well, How about instead of a stranger, you and I do it? It's been a long time for me too. Like, let's scratch that itch together. Get it out of our systems. And then he says, oh, and, by the way, if you say no to me, I'll just cock block you all night. So you better say yes. So she pushes back a little bit. They're hating each other. They're talking shit. Whatever. Long story. They end up hooking up. You know where this is going. Do I need to tell you what happens next? That it's huge, that it's the best she's ever had, that they do it like 6 times. Is anyone surprised that they talk crap to each other the entire time so much, and saying that they can't stand each other? And of course the term milk is used. I fucking hate Lucy's score for that alone. Flashback, 22 years ago, Lucien had to sit in jail for 6 days. He missed his birthday, he missed his graduation. His bail was set at $250,000. They were going to try him as an adult. Her dad called the district attorney, and they said that Lucien should take a plea deal and that he would get 8 years in prison. Her mild-mannered father said, go fuck yourself, which I love. And her parents took out a second mortgage on the home to be able to pay to get Lucien out of prison. And Salone, overhearing this in the room over, says, take my college savings too. Salone, realizing that she ruined Lucien's life, that he is sitting in jail, does the only thing that she can think to get him out and prove that he's innocent, which is to prove that his dad was the one that was causing the harm. That night, she waits for his dad to come home, and she grabs the camcorder. She sneaks over to their house to film him hurting his mom. She has a self-reflection moment in between there where she's like, I can't believe that I'm looking forward to a woman being abused. Like, this is really fucked up. Which is some crazy insight, by the way, and like such a sad thing to point out in this scenario. So she goes over there. She tries to film it through the window of him abusing the mom. But it's escalating. And it's escalating even more. The mom is talking back to him this time and saying, like, you took everything from me. And Salone leaves the camera recording the back door, and she rushes home yelling to her parents for help and being like, hey, like that, you calling 911 at the same time, telling her parents that it's happening and that they need to come over. And she rushes back to the other house. She runs to the back door, picks up a clay pot off of the back patio, throws it through the back door, and starts yelling at the dad that he's a piece of shit and all this other stuff. The dad lunges at her, snaps her wrist in 3 places. Ruins her softball career, by the way, which is where the thing came from earlier, is that his dad broke her arm and she couldn't play softball anymore. It's so sad. Chapter 23, after they have their crazy shenanigans, Salone snuck out of the hotel and went home without saying a word to Lucien, and he's not very happy about it. And so he stalks her back to her house, bangs on the door, and when she answers, he says, I'm not done with you yet. And like grabs her. which like, hey man, it might be hot under certain circumstances, don't get me wrong, but is that shit not terrifying in this circumstance? You can't tell me a story like that in the previous chapter and then just jump immediately to that and expect me to not feel like crazy whiplash from it. That's scary. He's such a scary man. Oh my God. By the end, oh Jesus, that was my elbow. By the end though, she's like, oh, I don't want it to be over. Like, I want to keep hooking up with you. And they agree to keep hooking up until they're tired of it. I said, only thing that I will add about this book and these scenes in particular is that the term good girl is used 9 times. So, if you're into that, hey, if you're into that, I'm just saying, 9 times, it's a good book. In the next chapter, post-pillow talk scene, they're being sweet to each other, but Salone is internally freaking out because she's starting to blur the lines of old feelings and current no-strings attachedness. The next chapter is called I will not apply a chemical peel to my dick. He wants to text Salone, but doesn't want to say good morning because that's lame. And he doesn't want to say good morning beautiful because that's over the top. And so instead he says, my cock is chafed. And then it's just cringy banter. He goes to work, everyone calls him out. Like, everyone clocks him for being extra happy and getting laid. Nolan, Lena, and Lucian go to his office. They go through some intel that was confirmed that Dilton was hanging out with Felix. And so it really does seem like Dilton commissioned the list. But it would be stupid for him to make the list and then be the one to then kill Nash. But they're like, oh, well, not all criminals are smart. And, like, maybe he made the list, but then, you know, Anthony Hugo commissioned it or, like, paid for it. And so maybe that's why he then executed him or tried to execute him. I don't know. It's kind of weird, and it's a bunch of filler until we get to the fact that Anthony Hugo, the dad, has placed a tracker on one of Lucian's vehicles. Luckily, it's not the one that he took to Salone's the night before. However, cut to the next chapter. Lawyer visits to discuss options for Mary Louise. The lawyer is going to take the case pro bono at first, but explains that the appeals process is very costly and it could take years and all kinds of money. If they get to that point, they will charge a reasonable fee. But before they can begin the appeal, they're going to try to talk to the judge, like have like an outside of session hearing with him to see if he is willing to appeal his own ruling and kind of take it back. Not appeal it, I don't know what the proper word is, but to have him reconsider the sentencing. And the hope is that he's like mellowed out through the years, and so between mellowing out and with the case being in the public eye, he'll take it back. The decision is that they are going to highly publicize this case because nothing will give a case better attention than a cute, small-town librarian trying to honor her dead father's legacy and champion the underdog. Like, literally, it is a story made for people to care about. So that's what they're going to do. She's going to do a bunch of interviews. They're going to try and get this case of a bunch of attention. They're going to talk to the judge and see if he'll change his mind. I think it's been 9 or 11 years that Mary Louise has served. And so they're hoping that the judge will see that and just be like, oh yeah, you're good to go. Get on out of here. Cut to, it's Valentine's Day. Salone is at the library. She's hosting a Valentine's Day thing. Nash comes by. He works in the police force. He works in the municipal building right next to her. He sees her climbing a ladder. He talks shit about her getting on the ladder. He helps her. They chit-chat. A guy comes over, a library worker, and he says, hey, Salone, this was left for you in the Dropbox. And it is a not addressed envelope that just has her name on the front of it. And then when she opens said envelope, it says, stop now before someone gets hurt. Nash, the guy who got shot, is a little concerned about this. He says, oh my God, is somebody threatening you? And she tries to play it off like a stupid freaking beezy. It makes me so mad. She's like, oh, people do weird stuff all the time. Like, you don't understand. We get weird stuff in the Dropbox all the time. Like, it's nothing. He is concerned, and she's like, you're overreacting. Like, don't tell anybody about it. Keep it a secret. He says, you have 24 hours to tell your friends about this because this is actually serious. Immediately after, Naomi comes over with a box of sports drink from a secret admirer that has an unnamed note that says, for later. That one is obviously from Lucian in reference to their sexcapades. But Nash doesn't know that, so he's like, what is happening? It's like so funny. And so she texts Luciana and she's like, hey, is this from you or is this from a stalker concerned about my hydration? He says, I thought it would be more appropriate than flowers and candy, seeing as how I'm only using you for your body. Which, to be honest, is kind of funny. So she goes to her office after the event, and Luciana is waiting in the corner of her office in the shadows like a creep. Flirty banter. They sneak away so they can go back to her house. Next chapter is more spice and flirty banter, and I'm just tired, man. The next chapter is called Getting Stupid. They go to Honky Tonk to meet with their friends, and they have to pretend like they're not hooking up because they don't want to tell their friends that they're hooking up for some reason. As if, again, we're not all 40-year-olds. So they go to Honky Tonk. They do so. They go in at separate times. They, kind of separate whatever, but then when everybody goes on the dance floor, they kind of sneak off to the hallway and basically start banging in the hallway. And they come back and they make it 22 minutes until they make up stories to bail, and then they go back home to hook up some more. The next chapter is called I Have to See a Man About a Pile of Frozen Rats. So, just more hooking up. They hook up at his house this time. She wants a snack, she wants like a greasy, fattening food thing. Wait, oh my god. Sorry. So one of the parts of their like little hooking up scene, she says, and I was so wet, I was thinking about renaming my lady parts to Costa Rican rainy season. So they go back to her house. Walking up the stairway, he stops. What? Why? What's going on? I tried to peer around his broad back, but he spun and gripped me by my shoulders. Do as I say. I saw it then. The morbid, nauseating pile of matted fur and long, fleshy tails. Oh my god. Lucien picked me up and marched me off the porch. He set me down on the walkway where I no longer had a clear view of the door. I don't suppose that's a common behavior for rats, I said, fighting the nausea. No, it isn't, he said sternly. Damn it. You better go back. I have to see a man about a pile of frozen rats. No, you're going to my place, and I'm calling Nash. If you call Nash, the chief of police will know that we were together tonight, which means the rest of the town will know by morning, and they'll be speculating about these threats, and you don't live here anymore, but I do. I'm the one who's going to have to deal with the attention. Threats? Lucien's voice was deadly calm. I still think the first one was a joke. This is clearly an escalation over some vague note. He didn't say another word. No, Lucien Rollins merely tossed me over his shoulder and marched me back to his house while placing a call. I have to call a man about some frozen rats? That's not even a funny sentence. That's not even a funny reaction. That's not even like a... What the fuck was my reaction when I read that? I'm being a hater right now, but I was so into this book at this point, until this point. And I said, why would you say it like that? I don't like you anymore. Like, that, I am, hey, what? Okay. So I hate Salone now. Thanks, Lucy. You made me read, what page am I on? I'm on 387, plus 600, 987, plus 600, 1587. You fucking B-word. You made me read 1,600 pages of Salone and made me fall in love with her just to make me turn on her? I have to call a man about some rats. Anyway. So Lucien calls, obviously, Nash and Knox and everybody else, and everybody shows up, and they're all like, oh my god, this is so crazy. I can't believe that. And they're like, the whole friend group shows up and they're like, Nash, Knox, Lucien, goddamn, who are we talking about? They all show up and they're like, Lucien, what are you doing at her house? And she's like, it's just sex. We're not in a relationship. It's just sex. Knox and Nash owe the girls money because they called it from a mile away. So in true Lucy Score fashion, once the main male character is faced with the, I'm really liking this woman, there's a sketchy event that happens, she needs my protection, they decide to emotionally withdraw and end their relationship. It is no surprise that in the following chapter, Lucien goes to Nash and they have a conversation about the rats, and they decide that the rats must be related to Lucien and Salone's relationship. So Lucien, he decides like the next logical thing is cutting Salone out of his life. And Nash calls him immature. He's like, don't you fuck around with Salone. She's a good woman. Like, you need to get it together. She's good people. You guys have known each other forever. We've been friends forever. Like, don't mess with her. Don't you hurt her. Which, hey, redeeming. So Lucien heads home. There's a heated exchange with Salone where he's basically kicking her out of his house. Does that sound familiar? She pushes back on it. And she's like, what happened? He says, you should go. Why? What's wrong? There's nothing wrong. I just don't want you here. That's not what you said last night. And he's like, that's whatever, get out. She says, no, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me why mere hours ago you were begging me to make you come and now you're Mr. Freeze. I remembered all the reasons that I don't like you. Nice try. You never forgot them in the first place. I spoke to Nash. He dug into my father's arrest record and connected some dots. You jumped willingly into a dangerous situation. So did you every time that your parents fought. That's different. It was my responsibility. You never should have been there. I never should have told you what was happening. It's bad enough that he ruined your plans. He could have ended your life, and you went over there willingly. Because you loved her. Because you wanted to keep her safe, and because I couldn't stand another minute of you being locked up for a crime that he committed. He broke your wrist in 3 places. You had to have surgery, all of your plans, all of your dreams, everything gone because you couldn't listen to me and do the right thing. Lucian. What? I realized I was yelling and I didn't raise my voice like him. I didn't have to. What? I repeated quietly. I'm sorry for not listening to you when you asked me to not call the police. I had no idea what would happen, and I'm not sorry for what I did to get you out. I still feel sick about what happened to you that night, what I saw, what you must have lived with for so long. I know how lucky I am that things didn't end differently. I've wasted a lot of time over the several years thinking about the what ifs. What if I'd gotten there too late? What if he'd hurt my dad? What if he'd gotten away with it? But I have never once regretted the way that things worked out. He went to jail and you got out. Justice was served. There's no such thing as justice. That sounds like a conversation neither of us have time for. You have someone actively threatening you. Not only did you not think to mention it to me, you're also not taking it seriously. It's fucking selfish again. Selfish? You think me putting your father in jail so everyone would know who the real monster was is selfish? You deciding that you know what's best for everyone is selfish. You refusing to take the bare minimum of safety precautions once again is selfish. You putting yourself in danger is selfish. You're really starting to piss me off, and I don't like to be pissed off on Thursdays because it's lunch swap Thursday. And I like lunch swap Thursdays. So I'm going to say this. I'm sorry for my part in all of it, and I'm sorry for not doing what you needed me to do or not being what you needed me to be. And I'm sorry for making it seem like I'm not taking these threats seriously, because I am. I'm freaking the fuck out that someone decided to throw a pile of dead rats on my front porch. Now, can we talk about whatever this is like adults? Or are you going to double down on shoving your head up your ass? I need to get back to the city and you need to go home. Doubling down, I see. Fine. She gripped the hem of the t-shirt that she wore and dragged it over her head. Sloane Watson was naked in my kitchen. I wasn't sure how many fantasies of mine started this way, but it was at least 1,000. Keep the shirt. I'd rather walk home naked. We'd spent too much time doing this, fighting, then finding our way back to each other only to blow up again. We were like magnets drawn together in one moment before we reversed, repelling each other the next. But this time, it needed to be permanent. This time, it needed to blow up forever. I spent enough of my life with a woman who had no sense of self-preservation. I'm not doing it again. Not when I have a choice in the matter this time. She stopped, mid-hop, putting her pants on, and glared at me. Fury snapped off of her like sparks in a bonfire. Don't you ever compare me to your mother, and while you're at it, have fun spending the rest of your life alone because you're too fucking stubborn to learn to do better. As long as I don't have to deal with you on a daily basis, I look forward to it. I pity your future husband. Sloane's laugh was sharp and humorless. I wouldn't waste any time thinking about me or my future husband if I were you, because I'm going to forget you ever existed. Good luck with that. Jesus, and then they keep yelling at each other. He said, I have dealt with a woman with no self-preservation long enough. I'm not dealing with another. I don't have any words. So we go to the next chapter. Sloane is ignoring Lucian as I fucking would, bro. She's at the courthouse waiting for the results from the judge about Mary Louise's case, about reconsidering his sentencing. He's not changing it. He doubles down on it, and now begins the long hall of appeals, and Sloane is heartbroken over it, and she's moping at work at the library, when she finds out that Lucien has been spotted all over DC with all sorts of beautiful women, and she's even more upset about it. Cue the quintessential Lucy Score cornerstone, girls' night drinking to talk about how much men suck, and they come to the great conclusion about life. They're back at the same bar that they end up in every book so far. It's the whole friend group, minus Lucien, obviously. And she finally tells everyone why her and Lucien had the falling out. We also learn about the secret funding that he's been providing her library. Spoiler alerted you about this in the first book, but the grants that she's been receiving for her library have come from 3 different companies that just happen to be named after various species of cherry trees. They're all like subsidiary companies of his that have been giving grants to her library to give it various funding things. One of the grants was the funding for Naomi's position. Lucien and Knox split the cost of that grant for the library to give Naomi a position there so that she would stay in town. Hey, I'm gonna get so close to you right now. Hey, that's not cool. Hey, that's not cool at all. When I read that, so Lucien, it's okay, right? Is it okay? It's not okay. Okay. I have so much more forgiveness for Lucien, I think, as like a man, a boy, a child coming from like an abusive home that is trying to look out for the people that protected him through his life, even though he might not know how to deal with it emotionally because he had never been given those opportunities to learn and grow in such a way that he is doing what he can and loving from a distance to prevent hurt. And maybe that may be some personal bias, that may be some like personal shit going on with me. I don't know. I am so much more forgiving of his actions than I am of Knox's funding a grant anonymously to keep Naomi and corner her and leave her in a town still essentially obligated under his funding. I feel like I just want to go back and like protect Naomi. She ended up in this town in a house that his grandmother owned next door to him, working under him. Now this grant of her other job also came from his funding. This is alarming. Why is nobody freaking out about this? Anyway, so she learns about all of this while she's at this like girls' night drunk fest. I feel like whatever. So I hate all of them. I hate all of them so much after this. I'm just shaking. In the next chapter, dude's just being a douche to everybody at work. He's firing people left and right and like being grumpy. But his mom shows up. Lucien's mom shows up to his work. And we learn that she has never remarried, nor has she ever gotten a job. Lucien has just like continued to subsidize her and give her some projects to work on at the hotel earlier referenced that he owns, that like he and Salone met at, you know? So his mom comes in, she asks for more funding, they're talking back and forth, and she reveals that she is dating somebody. Lucien did not know this, and he blames Salone for him not knowing this, that he's been distracted. And I said, in Lucy Score fashion, we have the same conversation 4 times over the immature dude getting his act together. First, it's Lena at work. Then he goes to his therapist friend's house in the next chapter. And then eventually it's Knox and Nash. So in the next chapter, it's called A Good Old-Fashioned Ass Kicking, in which he, Nash, and Knox go to Honky Tonk to go have a drink and hang out. While they are there, Salone and this teacher guy, he's perfect. He loves kids, he's a teacher, he's got his life together, he's attractive, he wants to settle down, he's her age, like literally checks all of the boxes. He and Salone are on their second date. And they show up to Honky Tonk. They walk in. Lucien sees them. He's like eye daggers the entire time. Salone goes to the restroom. When she comes out of the bathroom, Lucian corners her, pins her against a wall, says, I know you want me. I know that you want me. She gives into it because, again, at some point you kind of have to when this crazy big man is cornering you in a dark hallway. Doesn't that sound awfully reminiscent of when Naomi's ex cornered her in a hallway and said very similar things in the first book? But anyway, Lucian is cornered her against this wall after she comes out of the restroom, and Knox and Nash show up at the mouth of the hallway. Saloni, which of us do you want to leave? Me and Knox or Rollins? Nash asked. She locked eyes with me, and I found that dark smudge and all that green. I want Lucian to go. No more, Lucian. It's time for you to go. My heart, if I actually had one, fell out of my chest onto the floor and was crushed under her boot as she turned and walked away from me. Let's go outside, Luce, Nash said in his cop voice. You look like you could use a smoke break. Each brother grabbed an arm and hauled me through the kitchen and out the side door to the parking lot. For once, they were united, and perhaps for the first time ever, it was against me. You don't get to treat her like that, Luce, Nash announced when the door slammed behind us. I really want to introduce my fist to his face. Nash. God damn it, Knox. Knox said through clenched teeth as his boots scuffed at the gravel. And hey, y'all know what I'm gonna say. That's hot. Fuck off. I don't care. That's hot. That's so hot. And so they take Lucian outside, and they're like, hey, you need to man the fuck up. And Lucian's like, y'all fight all the time, but you guys never actually throw a punch at me. And they say the cutest things ever, actually. Knox's fist relaxed, and then he was pushing a finger into my shoulder. You're lucky your dad was an abusive asshole, otherwise I'd be mopping the floor with your dumbass face. We'd scuffled as younger boys always did, thrown rocks at each other, wrestled in the creek, but somewhere along the line, Knox and Nash continued their pummeling of each other, and I'd been left behind. They'd fought over toys, then bikes, then women. What does my father have to do with this? Knox looked at his brother for help. Nash looked at his feet. Why don't we get ourselves another round, save ourselves the trouble, he suggested. Not until you tell me why you make each other bleed on a weekly basis, but you're acting like I'm some delicate flower. Getting hit doesn't mean the same thing to us as it does to you, Knox said finally. If I punch my pain in the ass brother in the mouth, it's because I love him and he pissed me off. We don't hit you because you got hit at home. Your dad wailing on you was all kinds of fucked up. Maybe we didn't know exactly what was going on, but we weren't stupid. At least, not that stupid. You two didn't fight with me because you think I don't know the difference, that I can't handle it? They glanced at each other and then shrugged, basically. Why is that gonna make me cry? These two men. Hello, am I okay? These two men beat each other up all the time, but they're not gonna touch their friend because it's like he gets hurt at home, and that's touching. Lucian is like, I know the difference, bro. Fucking beat me up. I want to feel it. I want to feel something. So they all get these crazy fist fights. And Nash is like, dude, just try. Like, try and have a relationship with her. Like, what's your problem? Lucian is like, I'm not good enough for her. Nash and Knox are both like, you think we're good enough for our girls? Like, that's not even the point. Like, we're not in their league. Like, it should be that way. You should always think that your woman's better than you, because the second that you think you're good as or better than your woman is the second it all starts going to hell. And he says, so what, you're just supposed to drag them down to your level? No, you fucking moron. You're supposed to spend the rest of your lucky ass life trying to live up to them. Are they being redeemed? The answer is no, by the way. Again, Lucy Score does not know how to write main character men, but she can sure as hell write side characters. She can sure as hell write some side characters. But when they go main character, she just like sucks ass for some reason, and I don't understand why. And so anyway, they talk about love making men stupid. They beat the shit out of each other. Steph and Jeremiah come out, they take photos. It's just like, whatever, dude. And so the next chapter, sorry, so this gets really sad. Next chapter, chapter 35, You Love Me, You Idiot, from Salone. She goes to get lunch with her mom and hang out with them, and her mom, she doesn't want to eat. She says, frankly, I wasn't hungry. This was a shame. After my run-in with Lucian at Honky Tonk Friday night, I'd been feeling furious with myself and more than guilty. I'd been on a date with another man, a perfect one on paper, yet I still couldn't keep my hands to myself. I'd been a willing participant in the hallway after a second base ambush. Then I'd forced Lucian's friends to police him when I was just as much at fault. And judging from their bruised and bleeding faces when Knox and Nash returned to the bar, there had been a lot of policing. I was embarrassed and disappointed in myself. She's at her mom's house. They're cleaning out her dad's office, and a paper falls down, and it's the bill for his experimental cancer treatment that Lucian paid in full. Her parents told her that it was something that was a trial run by the university or something, so it was like a free thing. But no, it was actually a thing that Lucian paid out of pocket. So she finds out about this, and that whole quid pro quo thing that I said earlier, she gets pissed off because she's like, now I fucking owe you, which is the whole reason that he didn't want her to know about anything that he did for her family. Because he was doing it out of love, right? He was trying to take care of these people that took care of him for so long, and she would make it weird and like blah, blah, blah. I don't blame her, but I kind of blame him, but I don't blame him, but I blame her. You know what I'm saying? So she finds this paper. So she rushes to his office, and she's like, what the fuck is this? In that time, she did the research for those like 3 subsidy companies that I talked about that are all named after various cherry tree variation plant species things. Confronts him, is super pissed, and she's like, why would you give me money? Why would you do this? Why would you take care of my parents? Why would you do any of this? He was silent for a long beat. Oh, wait, stop. So she's confronting him about all of these things. Like, why would you do this? Why would you pay for these things? Why would you give me money? Why would you pay for my dad's cancer treatment? He says, don't do this alone. Please, for once in my life, just tell me. You should discuss this with your mother. She told me to talk to you. He was silent for a long beat. He wanted one more Christmas with you. I don't know if he made it to Christmas because the book is poorly written. I don't think he did, though, the way that it is. I think he died like right before Christmas. He wanted one more Christmas with you. That is so sad. He says, you're angry with me. I'm not angry that you spent 7 figures giving me a few more weeks with my father, ass face. I'm beyond grateful for that. And I have no idea how to handle it. But why would you do something like this without telling me? Why hide this? I'm giving you one last opportunity to be honest with me. What else have you paid for or donated or created for my benefit without telling me, while still treating me like I'd ruined your life? I don't know what you're talking about. And then she confronts him about all the other stuff. His face hardened. I'm in the middle of a very busy day. I gave his tie a yank. I don't care if you're in the middle of your own life-saving appendectomy. Lucifer, we are having this conversation. And then he says all this stuff about these grants. He's like, I don't need to explain my tax write-offs to you. He's such a dick. And so he says all this and he keeps pushing back. And she's like, say the words. Say that you love me, you stupid motherfucker. You love me. Say that you love me. You love me, you idiot. You've loved me since we were kids. You've loved me since I broke your trust. You loved me after I fixed it. You still love me. And he doesn't say it back. He won't say it back. He won't say that he loves her. He stopped mid-stride and turned to glower at me. You didn't fix anything. You nearly got yourself killed. And if he had gotten out for even an hour, he would have made sure to end you. That's what he did to things I cared about. That's what he did to things I cared about. There's no court order that would have protected you from him. So you protected me by keeping our friendship secret. You continued to protect me by pushing me away. That I was just some crazy, nosy neighbor girl. He would have found a way to hurt you. He did find a way to hurt you. He's gone now, Lucian. He's dead. What's your excuse now? I don't know where this narrative is coming from, but you're embarrassing yourself. I don't love you. Are you sure that that's the answer that you want to stick with? I don't love you. After all those years. All the things that we've been through together, you still can't even be honest with me. I'm being honest. You love me. You love me, and you're content to never try. That's not sad. That's pathetic. You need to leave Salon. I will. I'll never be able to pay you for those last months with my father. I don't want you to repay me. You can't come here again. It's not safe. Fine. But you can't give me anything ever again. No more secret donations. No more keeping an eye on me. Thank you for your baffling generosity, but understand this, I can't accept anything else from you ever. Why? Because after all this, I think we deserve a clean break. There was never going to be an us alone. He made sure of that. Your father is dead, Lucian. You're the one who made sure that there would never be an us. I loved you, you know? When we were kids, I loved you. And I think I could have again. By the way, just because you're done with me doesn't mean that you get to dump my mother too. She misses you. So pick up your goddamn phone and call her. That's not a good idea right now. Take her to lunch or dinner or whatever the hell you two do, and do it now, or I will find new and creative ways to torture you for hurting her when she's already grieving. Do not abandon my mother. And then they're interrupted by Nolan. He says, is this a good time, boss? Oh, never mind. I'll come back later. Bro, what the fuck is this book? This is so sad. Then she goes on a date with the teacher guy from Honky Tonk. She goes on their third date, which is the date that they would... And instead, she admits to him about the whole hallway scene with Lucian. And the guy says, yeah, that doesn't really mean much, because I have some stuff that I have to admit to you too. Turns out that he is the guy that was dating her sister. And so he just was trying to get back at her sister or get close to her sister again, and so was talking to Salone, but he's really actually in love with Maeve. Aw, yes, I don't know. So they decide that they're not going to do anything. Talk about each other's relationship issues and then encourage each other to pursue the other person. When she's getting in her car after this date, somebody comes up to her, pulls open her door, throws their hand over her mouth. They smell like cinnamon very strongly, and they tell her to lay off the Mary Louise case and chill the fuck out, or something bad is gonna happen. Okay. So she doesn't know what to do with that. Feeling kind of weird about it. Presses on. The next day, after getting that threat, she goes to visit Mary Louise again. She got the shit beat out of her. She's all bruised and bloodied and black-eyed, and she tells Salone to lay off. She's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Don't interview me. Don't talk about me. I don't want to get out of prison. Like, leave me alone. Salone says, what do you want me to do? Like, I want to protect you. I want to help you. And she says, leave me the fuck alone. So Salone gets sad and goes home. When Salone goes to the library the next day, she's sad, she's depressed, whatever. She grinds through the day. She's in her office. It starts to get warm. She had heard weird noises all night that she had been ignoring, but when she goes up to her office that night to do some paperwork, she's smelling smoke. There's heat coming up from the floorboards. And when she touches the door handle, it's hotter than it should be, and there's fire. There's fire everywhere. The entire library is on fire, and she calls 911, and she's trying to claw her way through the upstairs to try and find a fire extinguisher, and she can't find one, and she falls down, she hurts her head, she's on the phone with the 911 operator. Eventually, she's able to finally get down the stairs, get to the police station, and these officers help her out. Somebody set the library on fire. Lucien hears about this. He takes the helicopter from DC to knock him out, and he shows up and he realizes that he almost lost Sloane. So he goes to the library, they tell him what happens, and then he rushes home immediately to go and get her. She won't answer her door, she won't answer the phone, she won't let him in. And so he climbs the cherry tree in the backyard to go and find her and visit her and help her. She's curled up in the fetal position in her bedroom, mourning in shock, mourning the library, mourning her livelihood and these things that she has dedicated her life to, just absolute shock. He helps her, he gives her a shower, he changes her clothes. His clothes are destroyed from climbing the cherry tree and from bathing all of the smoke off of her. And they fall asleep together in each other's arms. The next morning, he wakes up. He has no clothes because, again, they got destroyed on the cherry tree. And so he puts on the ex's sweater that we referenced earlier, as well as some of her pink sweatpants that fit precariously and weird, which gets brought up a lot. And it's just a stupid comedic break that I don't like. But he goes downstairs to cook her breakfast. And then Lena and Nash show up. And Knox and Naomi show up. And they all comment about his sweatpants of hers that he's wearing that shows off his dong. Like, it's so stupid in a serious moment. And so the friend group reunites at Sloane's house after the fire. And he made everybody waffles, and she sees him, and they're talking about it. They're talking about the fire and what they're going to do with the library. And he's like, we're in a relationship. Everybody's like, what? And she's like, am I taking stupid pills? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, we're dating. We're together, dude. Like, I don't give a shit if you expect it or if you accept it or not. We're together. He continually repeats that. So much so that he invites her family over to their house to celebrate. So her mom, her sister, and her niece come over, and, he's cooking everybody dinner. They're bonding, they're chit-chatting, they're having a good time. And then Sloane and her sister go to the other room. They have a conversation. And her sister's like, girl, he's going to give you everything that you've ever wanted. You guys have been in love forever. I know the truth. I know that you love him. Like, just accept it. Sloane's like, okay, fine, whatever. And then somebody knocks at the door. And it's the teacher guy that Sloane had gone on the dates with that's in love with her sister. And he's like, I'm here to impress her. I'm here to make her fall in love with me. And so he does. He rushes inside. And Sloane is like, yeah, Beezy, you told me to love Lucien. You need to love this dude. So they do. And then in the next chapter, Lucien, again, in parading the relationship around, I guess. P.S., by the way, the reason that he was parading those other women around, it wasn't a relationship thing, and he didn't hook up with them at all. But he was trying to throw Anthony Hugo off of the trail in case it was somebody, or Anthony Hugo or whoever it would have been. He didn't want them to think that he was in a serious relationship with Sloane, so he was trying to put distance between them. So he was going out with all these other women to make it appear that he's just like some playa, When Sloane was still targeted and still almost died, he was like, oh my God, I almost lost her, thinking all of these other things and doing all this stupid shit, and I should have been loving her and protecting her. So that's where all this is coming from, okay? So for this final show of relationship, he brings Sloane to dinner, does not tell her what they're doing until they're there, and they are there meeting with his mother. Salone has not talked to his mom since the arrest, like since the night of the arrest and since all of that, because Salone, while acknowledging how difficult it is for a victim and survivor of domestic abuse that it is to admit the fault of the abuser, still blames her for hurting her son and putting her son in jeopardy, which I think is like a valid, that's a whole other thing and like a very, very, very complicated discussion to have, but valid nonetheless. Salone and his mom are in this situation of greeting each other, and it's very, very awkward and weird, but they sit down to have dinner. I totally forgot about this. So as they're about to sit down, he says, Salone and I are seeing each other, I said, taking my seat. Mom's eyes widened. Salone choked on her water loudly. It's serious, I continued matter-of-factly as I patted Salone on the back. Actually, Salone is not about the relationship. As far as Salone is concerned, he was a complete douche to her 4 chapters ago, and she doesn't want to be in a relationship with him. She reiterated it to their friends that they weren't. She reiterated it to her mom, who didn't listen because her mom was so happy that they were finally together. She tries to reiterate it to his mom, and she is less than gently grabbed on her shoulder to give her second thoughts, which is incredibly alarming and not good to read on page 503 of 586 on the last book of the series. And then his mom in the middle of this says, well, you know, I have somebody that I want you to meet too. I want you to meet my boyfriend that I brought up a couple of chapters ago. So the boyfriend comes up. Her boyfriend is Anthony fucking Hugo. What? They're in the middle of this restaurant, and Anthony Hugo walks up and he says, hey, I know you. And Lucien says, yeah, I know you too. They eyeball each other, and there's this like horrible banter. Anthony stood and smoothed a hand over his jacket. You might have cash and class, but I've got something you never will. Questionable fashion sense, Salone guessed. Killer instinct. I know when someone's outlived their purpose, and I ain't ever once been afraid to end their journey. You have 48 hours to give me everything the feds have on me, along with a few million in reparations, or I'm going to start ending journeys, he said menacingly. My mother was crying silently. Salone was vibrating with rage next to me. You have that same 48 hours to get your affairs in order, because by the time that I'm done with you, there will be no journey left to end. I will dismantle your business, your life, your family, your fucking face, and I'm going to enjoy doing it, I said. My mother reached for her water glass with shaking hands. Salone, however, was looking at me like I'd rescued a litter of puppies from a flood shirtless. Don't know. From where I'm sitting, you're the one at this table who looks like he had the most to lose, he said with an insipid smirk. When you have everything to lose, you'll do anything to keep it, I said darkly. Anthony snorted, and then he slapped the table like it was a bongo drum. 48 hours? Can't fucking wait. I'll be seeing you soon, doll, he said to my mother, eyes centered on Salone. But I think I'll be seeing you first. Gee, that'll be tough after I claw your eyes out. Salone lunged, knocking over a water glass and sending several sets of utensils to the floor. I hauled her back to my side. Easy picks. Together, we watched Anthony Hugo slither his way out of the restaurant. With a snap of a finger, 4 men in suits followed him. Salone breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, my mother was slumped in her chair, one hand covering her face. Everyone in the entire restaurant was staring. I didn't know we were getting dinner with a show. The amused comment came from none other than Maureen Fitzgerald, who looked both angelic and sinful in a glittery cocktail dress. This is so stupid. There's so... Hold on, sorry. Hold on, let me put this back on. The banter is so bad. I can't express to you how bad the banter is of like, the mom's like, you embarrassed me. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? And then Salone comes off the top rope and she's like, you're gonna say he embarrassed you? He protected you. You never protected him. You're a effing beezy, you effing beezy. How dare you ever say any of this stuff? And then Lucian and Salon leave the building and they go in the car, you know, to like get driven back to like wherever, and they bang. He's like, that's so hot. How you stood up for me to my mom. How you stood up for me to like Anthony Hugo. And she's like, that's what I'm for. And then they just bang away. So then the next chapter is called The Volcano of Lust. Again, as indicated in the previous one, they have 48 hours to bust him before he starts killing folk. Lucian. So he says, hey, we have 36 hours. He gave me a 48-hour deadline. Let's do it in 36. Actually, even better, let's do it in 24. Let's bust this guy for everything that we can. He gets his people together. They figure some stuff out, but they don't figure anything out. Who figures it out? None other than Salone, because of course she does. She, in the same way that she put together all of the LLC subsidies of Lucian funneling money into the library, she is able to put together that Anthony Hugo has been funneling money and receiving money from for-profit prisons, which is illegal apparently. And so that's what they do. And so they have the takedown. They arrest Anthony. They arrest all of these other people that are associated with Anthony. Everybody goes to jail. Yay! They wrap it up. She's still kind of pushing back about their relationship. Again, still like being forced into a relationship by this man, to the point that he hired a organizer, you know, Marie Kondo-esque person to her house to make room for him so that he could put his clothing there. He did the same at his house, but she doesn't abide by that. She still brings all of her stuff in like a baggie. And so when they get out of the shower one day and she picks up all of her shampoos and conditioners and puts them in a bag to go back home, he gets so pissed off that he forces her to go to his therapist friend's house before her hair is even dry and says, we're going to figure this out. Let's go to couples therapy. Let's iron this shit out. So they do. Therapist friend guy says, yeah, you guys have like actually like a lot of stuff to work on. It's going to take a long time. You know, you guys obviously love each other. They talk it out. They kind of come to that conclusion on their own. But he says, hey, take it easy, take it slow, figure out how you guys operate together, which is true and valid. But then, obviously, self-awareness means nothing in these types of books. The following chapter, after the therapist says, you guys love each other clearly. It's going to take time to build that trust. Lucian, be patient. He instead decides he's going to drag Salon to an appointment that he's not going to tell her anything about. She thinks he has some illness or that there's something wrong that he's not telling her about. Just never explains it until they're already there. I saw this coming a mile away and I'm still pissed about it, but I swear to God, Lucian, what the hell are we doing here? I turned to face her. I'm getting my vasectomy reversed. What came out of her mouth wasn't a sentence. It wasn't even words. It was garbled tongue of ancient civilization. That was not the reaction I was expecting. That wasn't even English. Oh my God, you're willing to have penis surgery just to make babies with me? Salone announced to the entire waiting room. She looked like she was about to faint. I reached for her arm, determined to keep her upright. It's more in the testicle, a stranger in a golf shirt said, pointing to the helpful 3D model of a ball sack. I waved a hand in front of Salone's face. Pix, you there? I think she's in shock, the guy's wife observed as she got out of her chair. Come here, sweetheart. Let's get you a drink of water. Vasectomy? Babies? Salone murmured. He's gonna unsnip whatever they snip just because I want to have a family. The woman led her to the beverage center and pressed a paper cup of water to Salone's shaking hands. Well, honey, some men surprise their wives with jewelry. Other men surprise them with surgery on their genitals. What the fuck am I reading? So he gets the vasectomy. She's all turned on by it. She's like, oh my God, he really does love me. This is what love is. She says, well, hell, Lucian, I didn't know you were serious about this. I don't know how to handle this. Like, what if I don't want kids with you? Which is valid. So valid of a sentence. He says, you do. I assured her smugly. Fair point, but what if we have kids? Like, we're going to have to get married. Not that you have to be married to have kids, but because I want to. I want a partner. I don't want to be a single mom with a baby daddy who sends a check. We're getting married, Salone. I already told you that. I don't know what's happening right now, Sloane said, panicking. Oh my god. In the next chapter, is this happy ending? What chapter am I in? Oh, I'm still in the same one. Oh, that's great. So they come back from the vasectomy. They go back home, and he has hired Knox and Nash to take care of the house so that he can propose to Salone. A movement in the shrubbery caught my eye. Knox Morgan, wearing camouflage in green paint, rose out of the rhododendron with his phone. He gave me the thumbs up. What the fuck? I mouthed to him. Video, asshole. He mouthed back, pointing at his phone. I leaned over the railing and shoved him into the bush. Nash is off around the corner that he also sees standing with a bullhorn to his phone, and they're playing a Shania Twain song. There's roses. There's whatever. It's fucking stupid and I hate it. So he, snippity-doo-dah, he proposes. And you would think that this would be the end of the book. I would think that this would be the end of the book, but it's not. He proposes. She says, yeah. She's like, oh my god, I love you. He's like, oh my god, I love you. He's like, I'm so mature now. He goes home to go and do whatever. Goes home, by the way, to DC. She's home alone in Knockemout. Salone is on a Zoom call with Mary Louise and the lawyer, and they're talking about next options and like what to do about the appeals process. In that moment, Salone is looking through the files, and she realizes that Mary Louise was arrested by none other than Wiley Ogden. And Salone pieces it together in that moment that Anthony Hugo owned these prisons. The longer that somebody was there and the less that you paid for them to survive, the more money that he made. And so he was providing kickbacks to the judges that sent convicts away for long periods of time, and was also essentially sending kickbacks to police officers that arrested people who went to prison. So in this moment, everything becomes clear. They were all in it together. Anthony Hugo was paying the judge who sent her to prison for 20 years. That's why the sentence was so harsh, because the longer the sentence, the more kickback that he got. Wiley Ogden, the reason that he was so arresting all of these people and doing all this crazy shit was because he too was getting a kickback. She realizes all of this as she gets a knock at the door. He's right behind me, isn't he? It's Wiley Ogden knocking at her door. She tries to play it off and she's like, hey. He has to donate books. And as he walks into her house to donate these books for the library that burnt down, you know, he's talking to her and her lights go out. The power to her house gets cut. Next thing she knows, she turns around and it's the judge. The judge from Mary Louise's case comes down her stairs with a silencer at the end of his gun pointed toward her. Wiley Ogden in front of her saying that she knows too much. Wiley kind of tilts his head to the side. She goes over there. He shoves one of her bookcases down on top of the judge, shoots the judge, point blank, kills the man. She's like, I don't know what's happening. Wiley turns toward her. She's like, why are you going to shoot me? What did I do? He's like, I'm tying up loose ends. He knew what I was doing. You know what I'm doing. I'm killing all y'all. And it turns out Wiley Ogden is the one who made the list that Felix had. Wiley Ogden is the one who made the list that Tate Dilton acted on. That's why he killed Tate in the last freaking book, because he was cleaning up loose ends. Because Tate knew that Wiley had made the list and put Nash at the top because he took Wiley's job. Wiley turns on Salone. Salone, seeing this, freaks the fuck out, makes a run for it, throws some stuff, jumps over a couch, lands on a thing, runs up her stairs, runs directly into the chest of Nash. Not Nash. Bro, there's so many fucking people. Runs directly in the chest of Lucian. And Lucian's like, follow me. And throws her into her childhood bedroom. And he's like, you need to go outside. And she's like, I'm not leaving you. And he's like, you need to go outside and be safe. And she's like, I'm not leaving you. Does that sound familiar? Does that possibly sound like the last fucking book? Because it's all just repeated material. Again, keep in mind 12 bedrooms in the house. So Wiley's like slowly kicking open the doors to the bedrooms. Does that sound familiar? I fucking hate this book. I hate Lucy's score. Sorry? Not sorry? Sorry? I don't know. So he's kicking all these doors open. Finally, Lucian is able to like push Salone out of the window. She climbs down the cherry tree, whatever. And then he's going to confront Wiley. He doesn't kill Wiley because they want Wiley to suffer because his dad never suffered. The end. He gets arrested. Anthony Hugo's in prison. All the other people are in prison. Steph and Jeremiah. The next chapter focuses on Steph telling Jeremiah that he wants to move in with him. Nash and Lena get married. And while they're on the dance floor, Naomi tells all the girls that she's having twins. Lucian and Salone decide that they're going to get married the following Christmas Eve because that's when her dad died. And she's like, I want to make Christmas a fun time again for our families and for everybody in our lives. And then when they do, they go back to her house and the Christmas tree has a star at the top of it that looks awfully like her dad. And nobody put it there. Nobody knows how it got there. And so they think that it's a sign from him. It looks like it's winking. So that's cute. And that's how the series ends. That's how the trilogy ends. Everybody gets to live happily ever after. 5 couples in this town, 4 couples in this town, and get to experience insta love and insta romance and get married and have babies and live happily ever after. We get so much found family. We get so much everything that you could want from a small town Hallmark movie, bro. It's cute. It's cheesy. It's stupid. It's annoying. It's repetitive and it's redundant and it's reductive even. I don't know what you want from me, man. It's a 2-star all the way around. Thanks for listening to me talk. I am so glad this fucking series is over. And if there's a book that you want me to read in the future, please let me know. I would love to hear it. I think my next book, I want to read something by the woman who wrote Credence. Penelope Douglas, I think is her name. She has a new book that just came out, so I think I want to read that and do some commentary on it. But if you want me to read something else, Colleen Hoover, another thing by Lucy Score, literally anything, please let me know. I would love your feedback and commentary, and I'll get to it, man, you know? Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. So far, I'm just a little baby YouTube channel still, but this has still grown beyond my wildest expectations, and I'm so grateful for all of you. So I'll catch you in the next one. Comment, like, subscribe. See ya. Bye.